the intoxicating beginnings of a relationship are what I think of as being the truly addictive phase. That period of time when people are just filled with exhilaration, right, and their heart is beating fast and they're sweating and they're pining away. They can't wait for the next moment that they're going to see their lover, and the thought of being without them for 10 minutes is just too much.
Right. So with all the brain research out there, it looks like love actually operates in our brains like an addiction. Talk to us about that.
I really think that it is an addiction, a perfectly wonderful addiction when it's going well, and a perfectly horrible addiction when it's going poorly. Psychiatrists at this point wouldn't agree with that. They think that all addictions are pathologies and harmful to you. Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot of them that are, but I think the brain circuit, we know that the brain circuitry for romantic love follows the same pathways as all of the other addictions do. And I've often really thought that the same pathway that originally evolved for romantic love and attachment is now being hijacked by all of the drugs and the gambling and the et cetera that we take. That the pathway originally evolved probably for some very positive reasons. As a matter of fact, romantic love emanates from part of this reward system that lies right next to the brain. In fact, this brain circuitry for romantic love emanates from the same brain region, from a brain region that is very close to the brain region for thirst.
Oh, wow.
Romantic love is a survival mechanism, evolved millions of years ago to focus your mating energy on a particular individual and start the mating process. And the same thing with attachment. These brain regions are way below the cortex, way below thinking areas, way below emotion areas, in areas linked with drive, with focus, with motivation, with craving, with obsession. And they are addictions. And someday I think the importance of that knowledge is that we need to treat it as an addiction. Particularly people who've been rejected in love. When people have been rejected in love, they'll say, well, you can make best friends with the person. You can't make best friends with a bottle of liquor. You can't keep a bottle of liquor on your desk. Right. In the same way, you got to get rid of the cards and letters that don't write, don't call. Treat it as an addiction. The more we understand the brain, the more we're going to really understand it is one of the most powerful addictions the human animal suffers with and gets the joy from.
Right.
I think you're saying things that every therapist should take so seriously. When one is rejected in a love relationship, especially when one has born children in that marriage, the pain is so powerful.
By the way, the brain regions linked with physical pain become active. Physical pain.
Oh, you ache.
When you've been rejected. Yeah. In fact, it's a brain region that also becomes active when you have tooth pain.
Oh, wow.
The difference is a week after you get rid of the tooth pain, you've forgotten it. A week after you've been dumped, you're still in the nightmare.
Yes. Yes. And so often in my practice, the person who has rejected will say, but we can be best friends. And yes, and you are confirming that is a very bad idea. And I work with clients to understand that the person who you love can very well become your very best friend, and that best friend is not going to dump you, is going to cherish you. Yeah. So let's know you deserve that.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, the intoxicating beginnings of a relationship are what I think of as being the truly addictive phase. That period of time when people are just filled with exhilaration, and their heart is beating fast and they're sweating and they're pining away. They can't wait for the next moment that they're going to see their lover, and the thought of being without them for 10 minutes is just too much. And so we know, research indicates that this stage, which I really think about as addiction, lasts for 2 months to 2 years, and sometimes people that I see couples will actually say that they would like to get their 15-year-old relationship back to what it was like in the beginning. And it's an interesting goal for them, and I think probably not possible. And instead, I think it's, and with your research, I love. I mean, instead, we want to work on with them the kinds of behaviors to form in a long-term relationship that will help release the cocktail of these terrific chemicals that you're talking about.
It's so primitive. It's so primitive. It's below all the other parts of us that we use all day long. But it can't sustain. That cannot sustain. We can't, just like no addiction is sustainable. It can't rule your life. Any addiction will rule your life, and that is the clinical threshold for when it's a problem, is when it's causing you a problem. If you didn't go to work because you're running around the dining room table, or you didn't call your grandmother, it's a problem. So one of the great things about love, how we're wired, it sounds like, is that we start to turn it off a little bit when, as other life needs to get our attention, and then we mature.
So love, so for what we're talking about, love sort of starts as an addiction, right? And if people break up, the recommendation from the group is potentially to treat it like an addiction. So don't stay friends with your ex, that's bad news, right? And then in a regular relationship, nurture it by doing novel, vulnerable, interesting things, ask the question behind the question, and hopefully people who are in long-term marriages will have a better chance of staying in them.